Hey, welcome to the Unpacking It podcast update episode. Hope you are enjoying the Christmas season. I'm Bryce Johnson and glad to be with you today. And this is a special episode because I'm making a big announcement about 2019 and where we're heading in 2020 here at Unpacking It. And I have to start by going back to 2012, August 8th or 9th, when the Unpacking It radio show first went on the air. The show started in Boston. I was doing the show from Charlotte, sending it to Boston. We ended up syndicating the show, growing the show, and after 7 years, we are transitioning the show from radio to podcast, digital, video. We're going all in. And so it's bittersweet for me because I am a diehard radio guy. I love the tradition of radio. I love when radio is featured in TV shows or movies, or I just love everything about it. I first went on the radio when I was in 8th grade and was the president of student council and had the opportunity to be on a country music station as a part of Make-A-Wish and some stuff we were doing with the school. And so ever since then, I've loved radio and will continue to love radio. We're just transitioning the Unpacking It show into more of a podcast-focused show. And so what does that mean for you? Now, you've been listening to the podcast for I assume many of you haven't necessarily listened to the radio show, but you've heard the radio show as a podcast. And so what's so exciting for us is that now we're going to have just a lot more flexibility, more creativity. We're going to have a new format. We're going to have more content some weeks. We'll have less content some weeks, but it allows us to put out content that you want, that you consume, that ultimately we just want to challenge, encourage, and inspire you to follow Jesus and become more like him. And so we're going to continue to have incredible interviews. Now these interviews, we don't have to be limited by any time constraints. And, the downside to radio is everything's broken down by hours and segments, and you have to fit in a certain number of commercials every hour. And so every week, our show was 42 minutes and 54 seconds, and it was broken down into 5 different segments. Now, we're free. We're free to kind of do what we want with the show each week, and we're going to have multiple episodes each week, and it's just going to be a blast. So we're going to feature more kind of sports talk and conversations about faith and life, and for me, fatherhood, and sharing some of the things that I'm learning and experiencing. And we'll answer questions from you, the listener, about a number of topics. And so we're going to feature some different guests, especially locally, that will join us for the show, that will almost be, just personalities and co-hosts, a part of what we're doing. So you'll get to hear from different people, and it's just going to be a blast. So we're excited about it. We've had a tremendous run on the radio, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to have some content on the radio. We're still working through some of that because this opens up different options, and so we're going to focus on the podcast first, and then more to come, basically. So it's all very good and exciting, and God continues to move here on Unpacking It, here at Unpacking It Ministries, and we're just trying to be obedient. God continues to open doors, close doors, lead us, guide us, let us know, here's where I want you to go next, and we just try to stick with it, stick to what he wants us to do. And so he sees the future of technology. He already knows what's going to happen next. He already knew podcasts were going to be a big thing. And so now that's where we are in the technology world, in the media world. Podcasts are growing. I mean, the guy I was at lunch with today, he gets stuck in traffic every night, and what does he do? He listens to podcasts. And that's where we're heading. So we want to be where you are, where sports fans are. And so we also want your feedback. And so as we build this new show and change the format and make some tweaks and, be patient with us. We may try some different things the first month or so, and then we'll go, that didn't quite work. Let's do something else. But we want your feedback. So emails are key. Bryce@unpackingit.com. You can get up with us on Facebook, Unpacking It. Also, in this episode's show notes, wherever you are listening to this podcast, go click on the survey link and fill out the survey. It'll take you a minute, maybe 2 minutes. It should be pretty quick. And ultimately, I guess if you offer a little more feedback, maybe it'll take you longer, but it should be quick. And we want your opinion on what you've liked about the show in the past and what you'd like to see different moving forward. And so we want this show to be more interactive. We really want a community of sports fans following Jesus, coming together on the podcast. We do a lot with the ministry, with events in Charlotte, and then PAX and Fantasy Football Fellowship around the country. But we care about this podcast community. And so we want you to be engaged, interact with us, offer us feedback, and be a part of the show. Which direction should we go? What do you want to hear? What do you want to hear more of? Who are some of your favorite guests? Who should we get back on? Who are some people you'd like us to get on the show? So as things are changing and we're no longer, focused on being on radio stations, we need your help to get this show out there as well. So we're counting on you to help distribute the show, posting on social media, sharing it with friends, telling them, hey, check out the Unpacking It podcast. So you're very valuable in the growth of this show. So I hope that you're excited about that. Again, check out the survey in the show notes. Fill that out, please. It'd be awesome. We really appreciate it. And then also any emails, Bryce@unpackingit.com. For those radio listeners that are transitioning to this podcast, we're glad to have you. And sorry to say goodbye to the radio airwaves, but we are fired up for what this podcast can be and what God can do through this podcast. We want this show to honor God, to be about Him, to have conversations about sports, faith, and life. Do it sometimes with guests and co-hosts, and sometimes it'll be me and you and having a conversation. Sometimes that's a one-way conversation, but that's why I'm inviting you to respond and to be a part of Unpacking It and the podcast and all that we're doing here at Unpacking It. We're going to have some new shows that we're going to launch as well. We'll have the national show, the local show, and those will be different, and then the interview show, and it's going to be sweet. So I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. If you haven't listened to the Christmas episode yet, make sure you do that. And we will talk to you in 2020 here on the Unpacking It podcast. I'm Bryce Johnson. Merry Christmas.